The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
Live broadcast of Pateo Television, brought to you via consciousconsumernetwork.tv. My name is Johan Oldenkamp and I'm the host of this television presentation. And I also have a co-host, and I will introduce him later on. His name is Robert Oti. Before I share my screen, I want to show you this vortex. Hopefully everything works well. This is what we're going to talk about in the second half of this presentation. This beautifully water vortex. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Hoping everything is okay. The subject of this broadcast is Electric Universe, and the date of today is July the 2nd, 2015, and it's the 12th episode of Pateo Television. And as I said before, it's broadcast via CCN, consciousconsumernetwork.tv. So if you watch this on YouTube, but not live, then please check out this website, because you find much more interesting television programs broadcast here 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days in a week. I have a weekly television show every Thursday evening. That means Central European time, and it starts then at 8 p.m. So maybe check out your own time zone, but every Thursday at this time it is live broadcast for 2 hours. And if you want to contact me, this is my email address, johan@pateo.nl. And the co-host, I'm going to introduce him now. His name is Robert Oti, as I said before, and this is his website. Robert, please welcome into this broadcast.
Well, thank you, Johan. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure for me to work with you, because I'm a huge fan of your work, and yeah, we know each other for a little bit of time now already. Maybe you can introduce a little bit about yourself and your website, because that's shown here, and also your latest book. So
okay,
please.
Sure. Yeah, I started this website 2001. It's been up there. It's been for free for the last 14 years. If you look at that second link there at the top, it says my free book, Free Thinking and Free Energy. There's about 1,200 pages of research there related to alternative cosmology, which basically is electric universe based. Everything's based on the works of people like Victor Schauberger, Nikola Tesla, T.H. Murray, Walter Russell, and others. So the site has been about the electric universe from the very get-go. And this little book here on the front is actually the first book I'm selling. That's my third book I've written. It's called Gravity is a Myth and Does Not Exist. Electricity is the Only Force in the Universe. And I just released that about a month ago, and it's doing really well. Sold quite a few copies, and people are very excited about it because this really supports the electric universe. It gets rid of this this gravitation-based cosmogony, all this insanity of, like, you know, big bangs, black holes, neutron stars, dark energy, dark matter. I mean, there's a huge list of things that are based on the non-existent gravitational force. And these things don't exist. I call it mathematics. I call it the math of myths. We've got this huge list of things that these academics have conjured up that have nothing to do with reality whatsoever. So what this book does is this gets people back in to focused on the electric universe, so we can, you know, give up on gravity altogether. Everything attributed to so-called gravity is due to electricity. There's only one force in the universe, which is electricity.
Exactly, one active force.
Yes.
What I like about your book, because you gave me a free copy, which I really appreciate, that is the format. You use the dialogue form to express a lot of ideas, and also to falsify a lot of ideas as well. So yeah, how did you come up with that brilliant idea?
Well, I was reading an online course that was teaching astronomy, and I was horrified. Once, you don't really know what these astronomers believe until you go into a course like this. I studied astronomy in high school, but when you get into college and you start looking at astronomy, they teach you all sorts of very bizarre stuff. And so I think what I realized was that it was so blatantly stupid that if I just put it out there for people, they would be able to see instantly that there's no logic, reason, or sanity behind the claims. I mean, these astronomers, they believe, the sun is pulling on Jupiter with 300 times more force than it is on the Earth, and somehow it knows how to, dole out different amounts of gravity to everything in the solar system. It's that, that whole idea is just insane. So you put it in perspective, and you show how the electric universe works, and it's all based on electricity. This has nothing to do with gravity. I mean, the gravity was created by Newton. He just dreamed it up. He added this fictional force to Kepler's third equation. He basically added the product of two masses to this geometrical orbit equation, when they weren't needed. So mass really has nothing to do with it. It's not the size of a planet that determines the so-called gravity. It's the position of where it is in the electric pressure zones of a solar system, for example. Everything in this universe is trying to find its correct equipotential position in relationship to everything else electrically. That's what's controlling everything, not a gravitational force.
Exactly. Yeah, and Johannes Kepler didn't use anything related to mass. He could describe all the orbits and all the elliptical shapes of them by explaining just the velocity and the distance. So
yeah, exactly. He didn't dream up a fictional force. He just went completely on observation and created equations which mirrored those observations. I think his downfall, of course, was the ellipse. I think the ellipse is an illusion, and it's an Earth-based illusion. I tend to believe more in Dr. Kashava Bhatt's vortex solar system, that the planets are actually following the sun in big, large vortices rather than going around the sun. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if the sun is traveling around the galactic core, how can the planets be speeding up and passing them and coming? That's what they're claiming. It goes faster than the sun, then it goes slower than the sun, and I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And Dr. Kashava Bhatt, he's got about 27 proofs of reasons why that the heliocentric version is in fact false. So I tend to agree with Dr. Bhatt, and I'll be doing a video here very soon because nobody's done that yet. I mean, I've shared this stuff with a lot of people maybe 5 years ago with Jason Verbelli, and DJ Sadhu came on board. He produced a video that's gotten like 2 or 3 million hits, done really well, but it doesn't accurately describe what Dr. Bhatt's book was really about. It just kind of gives like a kindergarten version. But it really caught on. I mean, it got close to 3 million views. So, I mean, people are very open to hearing about these kinds of alternative explanations.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's another subject, Robert. To me, they're not exclusive. So you can have both an ellipse and a three-dimensional helix movement. But,
yes.
But anyway, that's a different subject. I think we just continue with what we prepared here. And,
sure.
I have one more question before we go on. The number 7 is important to you because the price of the book is 7 US and your name also, your email address has a number 2 sevens if I'm correct. So what is it with 7, Robert?
Maybe it's just my birthday. July 15th. It's coming up pretty quick, so it's a magic number too. I mean, it's the lucky number and all that stuff. So I just threw that out, 8 years ago or whatever when I came on YouTube. As you had to have a handle in those days, and that was the first thing that came to mind. It was 77 G Slinger, which means guitar slinger. Not gunslinger, but I mean, I'll sling a gun as well. But I'm a guitar slinger. I'm not a guitarist. I'm not like a Jeff Beck, for instance. Somebody that's that sat there and played everybody's styles for years and years. And I'm more of a guy that kind of just reaches in the hat and pulls something out,
Okay, great. And the picture that we see here is still accurate, or you look a little bit different in these days?
A little bit older, but looks pretty close to the same. I haven't changed a whole lot. I'm aging pretty well, because I've lived a pretty clean life. I'm up in the mountains. I go out and hike, at 6 o'clock in the morning every morning with my dogs up on the ridge up here. So have a good clean diet. I don't go out and party. I quit partying like 20 years ago. So, you know, living a good life, living a good, clean life, trying to do the best.
Great, great, great. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Robert. Let's move on for the presentation. This is my website. It's my new one. I don't have it for long. It's holyscience.org. And you find a lot of information on, on my view on how to reunite pure science and living spirituality, because there's a lot of things wrong, and we're going to talk about that in this episode as well, with the university view on science, because it's actually more a belief system than it is pure science. It became a dogmatic system called scientism. So that's not really helping us. On the other hand, spirituality has also been invaded by religion, which is also a dogmatic system, and it's neither helping us with understanding the true nature of everything. So if you want to learn more about holy science, then please go to this website. And I also have a multilingual website. In 10 different languages, you find information here on holy science and my work, and also everything that is more dynamic, like agenda and news items, you find here. On the previous website, this one is only, I can say, the timeless information about pure science and living spirituality, and everything that is related with time or that can no longer be valid for a certain moment at a certain time. That is only on this website. And the name is pateo.nl. Pateo is Latin word for no longer hidden, and NL means to me natural logic. So it has nothing to do with Netherlands. That's to me a legal fiction. And if you want to know more about Pateo Television, then you just click in here on the menu, and you find all the episodes, all the previous episodes. Also on this website, here in the menu right, from top to down, you see also all the episodes of Pateo Television in anti-chronological order. So the last one is on top. And these are the 7 episodes of the first series of Pateo Television. I'm not going to explain them now one by one, but I advise you to watch them as well if you've not seen them before. Especially myth busting, because I busted a lot of myths in this episode, not only related to 9/11 and the fake moon landing, but also regard to the evolution theory and the so-called force of gravity, which we're going to talk about in this episode as well, as Robert already mentioned. So that might be also interesting to see. And then I did 4 more episodes, an episode about the true human history, and it is available in many other languages as well, in 5 other languages on top of English. This is about for instance, the periodic octahedron of the elements. We're going to talk about that later on in this episode too, because Walter Russell also had an idea about a different organization of the atoms, of the elements. And previously I did an episode about the archons, the parasitic invaders of our mind. And the broadcast last Saturday, maybe you've seen it, was about Sirius, the Sirius connection. And it's not yet available on YouTube, but it will be soon, very soon, I assume. So now we go to this broadcast of today, of July the 2nd. And we're going to talk mostly about the work of Walter Russell and of Victor Schauberger. And both Robert and I know quite a deal about both men and their work. So I think we're going to have a lot of interesting dialogues here, Robert. So I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
Yeah. And yeah, there are many more names. Robert just mentioned already the name of Nikola Tesla. I think he's also very important for really understanding how it worked. He was so well known that he had that he was able to, in very simple words, prove Albert Einstein wrong. And of course, he was right, because the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and he sure knew how the eating was, because he developed so many new practical things. Well, Albert Einstein didn't create anything practical, so I think that's really clear. But still, most people have not heard about Mr. Tesla, and hardly everybody, even little children, know about Albert Einstein. So I think that's really the world upside down here. And another one I want to mention here is Edward Leeds Cullen. He created in South Florida a park, Coral Castle. And he also understood, I think, much better the essence of electricity and magnetism than mainstream science does, because actually mainstream science doesn't understand anything at all. If you try to, for instance, try to understand what they're really explaining, then you see it's all based on circular reasoning. For instance, try to look up the definition of an electric field or a magnetic field, or what is charge, a charged particle. You'll see that everything is circular reasoning. So they have no clue. They can only describe it in a very vague way. But what is really the cause of electricity or magnetism is completely out of the range of university understanding. Actually, there is no real university understanding at all. It's all description. So it's more journalism than science. So I call them journalists instead of professors. So these are, to me, the way showers. And this episode, we're going to talk about the work of Russell and Schauberger mostly. But Robert is free to add any information on other geniuses as well. That doesn't mean that they were 100% right in everything they said. That's because we have to be critical. They're not our gurus; they are just way showers, and sometimes they went wrong, and that's also possible. And when we look, for instance, at the work they did in later life and compared with earlier life, then they saw they made some mistakes in the beginning as well. But that's the process of learning, so that's natural. So maybe I'll do another episode, maybe with Robert or somebody else, about Mr. Tesla and Mr. Leeds-Kalnin. But for now, we focus on the work of Russell and Schauberger. And I give the word now to you, Robert, because these pictures you were, you sent them to me. So of course I can explain too, but I think it's better when you do it.
Oh, great! Yeah, it's great you kind of started here, because what I've been doing lately for the last several weeks is about 6 hours a day, 6 to 8 hours a day of sacred geometry. Since it's so hot up here in the hills, you can't really move for about that long. You know, you sit in front of a fan and just draw all day. You know, and it's very healing. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it and to look at it, which I've been doing for 20 years, and I've done some sacred geometry here and there, but to really immerse yourself in it and make it happen on a daily basis, it's a very powerful experience. You know that I'm very close to Frank Chester, so he's inspired me greatly with his work.
Yeah, I can imagine. What I've done myself a long time ago was start with one circle, and then start and put the compass on the border and make another circle, and then continue until you have 6 circles around the middle circle, and then continue even further until you get the seed of life and the flower of life, and then you can start drawing the two-dimensional kind of shades or shadows of the platonic solids. So is that kind of work you've been doing, making circles and drawing beautiful shapes?
Yeah, I've been actually following the work of a guy named Deering Wang. He's on YouTube, and he's probably got a couple dozen videos, and he's, you know, at first it's like just monkey see, monkey do. You know, you're just copying the stuff and even copying similar colors, you know, just to get used to it. But what I'm noticing is the more I look at it, the easier it becomes to look through. You know, some of these you have to do like many layers on top of each other. So it gets very complicated to view it, you know, in your mind's eye. And I'm finding that the more I do it, the easier it is for me to see through all the complexity and to find unique patterns. I'm actually I'm watching the way Deering works through his, you know, through these really complex pieces, and I'm finding shortcuts, that's the way I like to do it. You know, I find a pattern and I repeat it. So it's been very, very educational. And this guy Deering Wang has done a beautiful job. He's really presented the sacred geometry in such a way that he's creating beautiful art forms. And it's just magical, you know. I mean, there's no end to what you can do once you start it. So I'm just wading into it at this point. But I'm just excited to see what's coming down the road 5 years from now after I continue this, because it's become a new passion. I mean, it's really a wonderful thing to be able to create art and then hang it on your wall. My walls are all covered with everything I've done the last few weeks, and it's like it's transformed this entire space, you know, where I'm living. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think they're very powerful impressions to get around you, because also subconsciously the energy comes into you. So it's a powerhouse you're building there.
Yeah, and you
right?
start noticing relationships. For example, Da Vinci puts man in the star. The pentagram is a sacred. It's a beautiful thing. It's like, oh, the Satanists, they've flipped it upside down and it's Baphomet and all this crap now. And well, the Jews did the same thing with the Star of David. Or the Nazis did the same thing with the swastika. I mean, these are sacred geometrical images. These people don't own these things. They can try to attribute all this negativity to them, but ultimately they're sacred geometry. You know what I mean? They're trying to capitalize on this stuff, and it's an ugly thing, And so I've drawn swastikas. I draw the Star of David, but it's not the Star of David. They existed for thousands of years before that in India, for example, and everywhere else, I'm sure, I mean, so, I just,
Yeah, that's great. I explained in the previous episode that the whole story of David and Solomon to me is complete fiction. So calling a beautiful geometrical shape relating to a fictional sky, that to me is really silly. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's a beautiful,
well, the Rothschilds are the ones that did that. They're the ones that brought the Star of David into the whole, Zionist movement, basically.
Okay.
So this hasn't been with the so-called Jews for thousands of years. This is a recent invention, a couple hundred years. So no, it's ridiculous when these people take over these things. Try to own them. You know what I mean? But the swastika is a beautiful image. I mean, it is the image of twin opposing vortices. You flip it in both directions, and you've got twin opposing vortices. I mean, that's the core of what Walter Russell teaches. So.
Yeah, when we look good in a certain way, you can also see two swastikas here. At least in my mind, they look like swastikas. So maybe we should talk about the Fibonacci sequence and the beautiful rhythm that we see in here, because it's everywhere in nature.
Yeah, exactly. You see it up in the upper left-hand corner there. It's laid out. The product of each number is the product of the two before. So. And this is really, it's powerful. I mean, have you heard of Randall Carlson?
No, I don't think I have.
Just watched a really good series by him, Cosmic something or other, with Randall Carlson. It turns out he's a Freemason, and that kind of gives me the creeps. But he's got a lot of very deep information. Excuse me, he's showing how these geometrical constants of like the Platonic solids and all this have direct relationships between, the diameter of the moon, the diameter of the sun, the distance of the planets from the sun and stuff like that. Amazing things. You just can't make this stuff up. You know what I mean? All these constants are tied in to our local environment as well. And I was just talking to Frank Chester yesterday. He's going to be adding the chestahedron and the decatria. The total number of degrees for each one of those also have very, very important meanings in relationship to our local cosmos. You know what I mean? The diameter of the moon, things like that. So it's just powerful stuff. Really amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Frank does great work. If you don't know him, maybe look him up. I will put the link also somewhere, but you can also find it on both of my websites, because just type in his name and you'll easily find reference to his website and what he's doing. Maybe we should also address the pictures below, Robert, because the Fibonacci numbers are not just a kind of arithmetic or mathematical ordering. They're also nature's solution to come as close to phi as possible.
Exactly. And then I think, what is it, by 144, it actually becomes phi. I think it's only 8 numbers down, and becomes phi constantly. It's kind of working around phi, going back and forth in the spiral. But once you hit about 8th or 10th number or something, it just goes on at 1.618, blah blah blah. But what we see here in these pine cones is the spiraling phi of nature. I mean, this is you see it all over. You see it in horns of animals. It's in your nose. It's in your ears. It's in your cochlea. It's, because the thing is, we're in a vortex universe. Everything's based on electric vortices. Air moves in vortices. Water moves in vortices. Light moves in vortices. Electricity moves in vortices. All these things are spiraling. That's the way nature works. So, I mean, plants, for instance, they use what's called phyllotaxis. They use that the numbering you've got there in the upper left-hand corner and their leaf configurations to get maximum exposure to the sun, for example. All of nature is based upon this. And yet this stuff is never taught in schools. You know, what we're taught is things like Newton and his straight lines, you know, two objects will remain parallel for all eternity or whatever, you know, if you send them off into space. It's total bullshit. Everything is spiraling. All motion through space is curved. There's no such thing as a straight line. Yet, you know, everything's straight line in academia.
Yeah, and that's why we think linear instead of curved and spiraling. Yeah, it's remarkable. But what I like very much about this picture, normally when you see a pine cone, you think nothing of it. But when you, for the viewers, this is the same pine cone. So you see both the 13 rhythm and the 8 rhythm, just when you go counterclockwise or clockwise. So the numbers 8 and 13 are both in the Fibonacci sequence. So this is nature's way of showing Fibonacci to us, or at least the golden mean or phi, or like you call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shall I go on to the next one, Robert?
Sure.
Yeah, you can do the talking because there are many pictures now.
I just sent you a bunch of random pictures. That happens to be a peyote button. So, you know, we don't have to really discuss that. I don't think there's too many people that are going to be eating peyote on your show, but I used to work with the Huichol Indians in central Mexico, and I did peyote with them, of course, and got into their visionary experiences. And I recognized their artwork immediately from my earlier experiences on peyote and mushrooms and things. So, you know, maybe 20 years later, when I finally met the Huicholes, it was like long lost brothers. Their artwork was exactly what I was seeing during my experiences.
Okay. Okay, and this is also the thing that Carlos Castaneda was eating in this, in the book on Carlos Castaneda. I'm not sure.
What was that about Carlos Castaneda eating what?
Yeah, I think he was also eating this kind of
Datura?
Yeah, or not? Yeah, maybe I'm confused.
Were you saying Datura?
Yeah, it's possible.
Jimson weed, yeah, that's very, very dangerous stuff. I would never even mess with that. You know, you would need a very complicated process in order just to even prepare it. You know, I would not even want to have anything. It's a very scary thing. I saw when I was in high school, a bunch of kids ate Datura, and they all almost died. You know, most of them ended up in the hospital and were very, very sick for days on end. So it's a very dangerous thing. Castaneda was eating mushrooms and peyote and things like that, for sure. In fact, his book Journey to Ixtlan is very telling, because Ixtlan, Rio de Ixtlan, it's kind of between Nayarit, Tepic Nayarit, and Guadalajara, Jalisco, and it's a little town there, a little village, but it's a hub where there's an airport, and all the small planes fly into the Huichol villages. So I think he was really, I don't really believe, you know, Don Juan was a Yaqui Indian. I think that was just a diversion. I think he didn't want to send people down to the Huicholes. I think the Huicholes, they're really the grand masters of this kind of peyote shamanism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of a little telling, you know, a little sign or something that he was really working with the Huicholes.
Okay, okay. And concerning sacred geometry or holy geometry, is there something to tell about this as well?
Oh, all their artwork is based on sacred geometry. If you look at it, you will see the hexagons and I mean, it's really amazing, because with the way they produce their art is they have carved pieces of wood, like they'll have a jaguar head or a mask or something that they've made, and they'll smear like a pine resin and beeswax mixture all over this thing. And they load up these little needles with those, they're called chiquitos, these little tiny colored glass beads. I think they import them from Eastern Europe somewhere, and they sit there and they put those things on, bam, 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 bam. You know, like incredible. You know, I mean, just the imagery, the sacred geometry they're able to show. And I've actually had to repair a lot of pieces. I've had, you know, stuff that was shipped up, and you know, the customs gets in it and they run a drill through it, you know, looking for cocaine or heroin or something, and you know, all of a sudden you get this piece of beautiful artwork that's got a huge hole in it, it's wrecked, and so you try to fix some of this stuff, and just trying to repair that stuff, it was so difficult to get the symmetry that these people would be doing, and because every single bead is different size, they're not all the same, but yet they get, the way they make it look is absolutely perfect. I mean, it blows my mind to see the way these people can work, because they're extremely talented, you know.
Great, Great. Okay, I'll move to the next one then.
More peyote.
Yeah.
More blossoming peyote. I sent you these by accident.
Yeah,
I just grabbed a file and sent it to you. So
yes, okay. I didn't know what to do with it. Anyway, this is something more we can see here. What to me is very astonishing is the shape of the continent of Africa when we leave Madagascar out of the picture. It looks like a perfect vortex there, or at least a spiral.
Right, it's following phi, just like the ear.
Mm-hmm.
Just like our noses, and like the rods and the cones in our eyes. You know, they're set up to receive vortical, electrical signals as well. You know.
Oh, that's what we see down right, the right-hand side at the bottom. That's related to the eye.
Wait, what's that? At the right bottom?
Well, I thought this has to do with the eye, or not?
Oh no, I was just mentioning that because we have rods and cones in our eyes. A cone was a cone. Cone's a vortex. I mean, it's a spiral, right? And a rod would be even a tighter one. So, I mean, everything's set up to deal with living in a universe where everything is based on spiraling phi. Everything's a spiraling electric motion. This is like that way with the animals. The animals they're all set up for their environments with everything that they need to deal with, spiraling air, spiraling water, whatever. I mean, it's all our anatomies are based upon this, or they wouldn't work in harmony with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Later on, when we talk about Schauberger, we'll talk about it a little bit further. So that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful, and I think everybody likes the shape of this. It's so fascinating to look at it. It's so beautiful, and to me,
and it's easily drawn with the golden rectangle. I mean, that's a very easy figure to draw.
Yes. Yeah, more spirals here.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and this is also a beautiful curling of a plant going.
A little fern. That's a little fern coming out.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I think this is a shell too, eh? Okay.
Yeah, nautilus shell, and that's I think an ammonite down below. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. Looks like fossilized ammonite.
Okay. And this is maybe a kind of like this, but then much bigger, or?
Yeah, exactly. There's some fern, another fern.
Yeah, and
those are edible.
Yeah, exactly. And you see them also like a little spiral as well. So it's very fascinating. A kind of repetition, recursion. Okay, then we move on, Robert. And now we go to weather systems as well.
Yeah, look at that. Amazing.
Yeah, so powerful. Yeah, when a hurricane is coming towards your house, it might not be that amazing anymore, but when this beautiful. In the beginning of the show, I saw the vortex like this, a water vortex coming down. And while you see the water vortex is coming down, at the same time the air vortex is coming up. And what you actually see here is also an air vortex coming down, and another one is going up inside. So it's a kind of combination, a dual system.
Yeah, I actually went through 2 hurricanes down in New Orleans back in the early '60s. Pretty scary. We almost didn't make it. They're powerful.
Yeah, there are movies about it, and the tornado hunters, and they make it really spectacular. But I think it's very, very frightening when you see that kind of force of nature at work. I think
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that it's going in a counterclockwise spiral up there. That looks like New York, right? We're looking at kind of New York, the right-hand corner there.
Mm-hmm.
See, so that's a little point that maybe a lot of people don't understand, the Coriolis effect and how that works, that it's counterclockwise in the north and clockwise in the south. And I don't know if you've been seeing this, but there's a lot of these flat earth loonies on YouTube right now, and they're really pushing this flat Earth thing, and it's total psychosis because I mean this alone, the Coriolis effect alone, destroys their little. I mean, it's ridiculous. These guys think we're living in a terrarium, basically. Like, so, you know, maybe some aliens created this thing. We're on a flat Earth, and there's a big glass dome over it and stuff. I mean, just crazy stuff.
It's absolutely crazy, but you don't know how many people have already emailed me and to ask my opinion about it. They are not capable of thinking for themselves. Actually, I was working with somebody who also has a website, and I said to him, what you're telling about this is all disinformation. You should not do this. And then he got angry at me, and in the end is he locked down his own website now, and he is going undercover, so to say, on Facebook in a closed group, because he doesn't want to hear critics. But it's complete lunacy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's crazy. I can't believe how emotional people have gotten over this issue. And here's the real problem with this. I think this is one of the best things about Russell is he tells you over and over, do not trust your senses. You know, your senses deceive you. You know, if you're driving down the road at night, you look at the trees, you'll see the moon. It's chasing you. You know, it's like, is it actually following me? You know, no, it's absurd. You know, if you look at the train tracks, they meet on the horizon, right? Do they actually meet, or do they remain parallel? Well, obviously they have to remain parallel so you can go to another city. You know, I mean, on a train. So we're surrounded by these illusions constantly. And what a lot of these flat Earth loonies don't understand is that we are in a frame of reference. You know, we are in a spinning, rotating frame of reference, and everything is entrained into that frame of reference. And so I get weird, you know, this guy, he's like, oh, you know, if you're on the back of a motorcycle and you hit a bump and you got a passenger, you know, that passenger should end up like 100 yards behind you or something if you're going 90 miles an hour. It's like, have you ever been in a car and thrown the ball up and down? You know, it doesn't hit the back window. It comes right back into your hand. You're in a moving frame of reference, you know. But I mean, it's really unfortunate. I think the science education has been destroyed around the world so that people don't understand simple things like this. And now we've got all these people that are extremely emotional and, you know, just hysterical about this flat Earth. And there's even one guy, this crazy dude named calls himself Lord Stephen Christ, and he's into the concave Earth. He says like the whole universe is inside the Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the hollow Earth is also kind of lunacy. But about the flat Earth, somebody told me it's actually a CIA experiment to see how stupid people have become, so that they know what they're doing. It could very well be right. Because
I believe it. I believe you.
Yeah, but it's we laugh now, but it's actually quite yeah, I think it's really bad that people are so easily fooled because they see 5 or 6 lies of NASA and then they get some other information and think that is true as well. But proving that NASA is lying doesn't mean that the Earth is flat. So they cannot even think straight. It's really strange, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can look at some videos on YouTube. They're like Ecuador and Uganda. They've got videos that'll show you if you go 10 feet to either side of the equator, it spirals in opposite directions, or what appears to be opposite directions, because there's only one direction in the rotation of the Earth. They're both spinning in the same direction. It's an illusion. If you look up from the South Pole, you see a clockwise spin. If you look down from the North Pole, you see a counterclockwise spin. But it's only moving in one direction. It's the same direction. So it's an illusion. Once again, an illusion to the senses. But if on the equator line,
oops, are you still there, Robert? In the middle of the sentence, he stopped. Oops. Well, I think I'll just continue, and hopefully Robert is able to join us again. What he was saying, I think, was that at the equator line there is no such effect, and everything is perfectly in balance.
Hello?
Yeah, are you back, Robert?
Oh yeah, sorry, I just dropped out. Connection. Good thing I don't have my video on, or we would not have any kind of connection at all.
Okay, great. Yeah, I tried to finish your sentence, but I'm not sure. You were talking about what happens at the equator.
Yeah, I was just saying on the equator itself, the water goes straight down. It doesn't spiral. And they've shown this in Uganda and Ecuador on YouTube. You can see it, you know, demonstrated if you don't believe it. So what I was saying is an illusion. You know, from the south, it looks like we're spinning clockwise. From the north, it looks like we're spinning counterclockwise. There's only one one direction of the rotation of the Earth. So what's created is an illusion to the senses. And once again, you can't trust your senses. You have to have knowing, that there is only one direction. There's the rotation of the Earth from east to west. Or I should say west to east. It's going towards the east.
Yeah, because the movement looks the other way around. That's a bit tricky, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. You can just grab a globe, spin a globe and you'll see instantly. Yeah. And it's like, it's an illusion. They're both spinning in the same direction, although we call it counterclockwise and clockwise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that word is very confusing sometimes because you have to first determine the point of reference from where you are perceiving. But
right.
Go into that. We're not trying to confuse listeners here or viewers here. Yeah, so what we see here is on the next page is a beautiful, inwards going vortex going down, and the hurricane is underneath, of course. But this is what we see when we look at it from above.
And we know we're in the northern hemisphere because it's spinning counterclockwise.
Exactly. So we can determine the sea, and it's probably the Pacific, but I'm not 100% sure yet.
That looks like the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Maybe the scale.
That's what I'm thinking. Florida to the right, it's going up towards New Orleans right there.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Tip of the Yucatan. Okay.
Yeah, Mexico down there. Okay, we come back to flowers and shells. The sunflower in the middle. It's nearly a hypnotic, I call it hypnotic image if you look too long.
Yeah, because you're looking at the spiraling vortices going in opposite directions.
Yes. Yeah, they're going inside each other, so that's really marvelous.
Clockwise and counterclockwise right there.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Beautiful. Yeah, those who have eyes to see, they see it, so you just have to open your eyes and see the secret of nature right in front of your nose.
Yeah, nature's the best teacher. I mean, it really is. There's no better way to learn about this than to be out in nature. That's why I spend an hour and a half to 2 hours every morning up here in the woods on the top of the ridge with the Creator. That's the best communion you can have with our Creator, is being out there walking in nature. That's when your best ideas start flowing, Yeah,
beautiful. Beautiful said, thank you. Yeah, we have some more nature pictures as well. We see the spiral here, also evolving.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of phyllotaxis there.
Yeah, they're all at the same position, looks like it, because they get maximum sunlight like this.
Yep.
More pictures, now a little bit smaller.
Little Van Gogh.
Yeah. And what is at the bottom right-hand side, Robert? What is that for shape?
That looks like Bryce Canyon to me.
Okay.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's remarkable. Somebody painted it, but it's a real picture of
Yeah.
canyon.
You get some beautiful landscapes out in Utah.
Yes. And we see a galaxy here. We will have more pictures later on of galaxies as well.
Yeah.
I think this is a drawing. Somebody made a beautiful painting with also
Van Gogh.
This is Van Gogh. Okay.
Yeah, and that gives you a little peek into his mind. That he was seeing things. He was seeing nature as it was, and he incorporated the spiral within it. It's really beautiful.
Yes. Theo van Gogh was a Dutch painter. Yeah. Yeah, also spirals going down and becoming bigger and bigger. And also even this is kind of a spiral inside a spiral, because these parts of the plants are also spiraling outwards.
Yeah, those are fractal iterations. I mean, just beautiful.
Yes.
Just each one growing out of the other, all fractalized. Gorgeous.
Yeah, and probably when we could zoom in, we could see the same picture coming back to us again. And I'm not sure what if you zoom out, but it's magnificent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much detail and so much beauty in here. Anything you want to add? You just add, Robert. I'm just admiring it.
Me too. I love that little flower in the middle there. That's what a special flower. I had that growing outside of my place, the last place I live. It's really gorgeous. I don't even know what the name is, but you see all the different layers there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the different styles, the petals first, and then those little purple shoots, and then the orange ones, and then it's like layer after layer of a layer of different looking flowers, you know. It's gorgeous.
If I was a bee, I would certainly check it out. Maybe it's smelling good.
Like or hummingbird too.
Yeah, hummingbird too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, see another spiral going outside or inside, depending on how you look at it.
The cacti, gorgeous.
I think this one is for sale because there's a price tag attached to it. So maybe it's in a garden shop. More spiraling movements or spiraling shapes. I think we're heading now for the galaxies. Yes, here we see two beautiful galaxies.
Yeah.
I don't know their names or their numbers, but yeah, everybody admires the arms, the rotating or the spiraling arms that go outside, and we are also actually in an arm of our own galaxy as well, somewhere near the outside.
Yeah, and those arms in Russell's work would be discharging vortices from the equator. And, you know, so what he would say was that coming in from the top, which we don't see at all, are these invisible electric vortices that are charging. They're taking space and charging the core of the galaxy. And the core is blowing out stars. It's birthing stars from the core outwards.
Exactly. That's the dynamics of the core of that, or actually of any system. It's receiving energy and it's giving out energy as well. So it's
exactly, and this is the big downfall of academic science: is they only believe in a big bang, one way, heat, death, entropy, disaster. I mean, it's insane. But yet we look at reality. This stuff is spiraling. It's obviously in perpetual motion. There's got to be an uphill flow of energy associated with the downhill flow. So that what we see is the death side. All we're seeing is the stars, which are discharging from the equator. We're not seeing the life side, which is the cold of space being imploded through the poles, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think we move on to the work of Russell because then we can talk much more about it. I think everybody has seen these pictures and can admire them. Some are real. I think this one is not a real one, but I'm sorry, this is a real picture to me, I'm sure. And this is also so this is how galaxies really look like. That's how we can see them. Unless you believe in the flat Earth, but I'm gonna not joke about that anymore. And then the last one, this one maybe this got by accident as well in the pictures you sent me, or is there a story to this as well, Robert?
No, I just sent you a whole file full of stuff that was, you know, I figured we'd be talking about, you know, to back up, you know, the basically the vortex. You know, I mean, this is all about phi and the vortex, electric vortices, the electric universe. All this stuff's electric universe here. Yes. But the thing that we didn't mention there when we were looking at the galaxies is these egghead astronomers believe there's a black hole. You know, what do you see at the middle of a galaxy there? It's a huge spherical shining mass. There's not a black hole there. Black holes don't exist. I mean, they're a product, or they're an artifact of mathematics, of gravitational cosmogony mathematics. That's all they are. They don't exist. Nobody's ever seen a black hole. Nor do they exist.
No, but they need that ridiculous concept to have a lot of gravity force. So they need an enormous amount of mass in no space. So it's actually no volume, but it has a huge amount of mass in order to create it. It's complete craziness.
Yeah, and of course the whole theory has morphed radically since we've gotten better pictures of out in space. You know, where you see the vortex jets coming out of the poles. It's like, oh well, hold it. You know. This is supposed to be a condensed mass, a spherical 3D mass that is gravitationally collapsed upon itself. And it's got so much gravity, light can't escape from it. What utter BS, you know? And yet here we've got the jets, these two massive jets coming out of the pole. So that now they've had to incorporate that into their bizarre black hole theory, you know? Yeah,
we better ignore it. Yeah, then we come to the work of Russell and the beautiful pictures he drew, and and their interpretation by him. Yeah, you know much more about his work than I do. Of course, I read most of his books as well, and I studied it. But yeah, you created a website a long time ago about his work, where beautiful pictures still can be found, thesecretoflight.com. And so I suggest that you do some explaining here.
Okay, yeah. I'm no longer associated with thesecretoflight.com. That was something that Matt did, and we're not working together any longer. But anyways, the story of Walter Russell is that he claimed to have had a 39-day illumination where he was caught up in the light, and he was able to basically, draw out all these ideas, related to the electric universe. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, here's my problem with the Russells is if it requires faith, I can't deal with it. I'm not going on faith. I need real science. You know what I mean? So if he says 39 days and he did it, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Excuse me. The one thing I do need to say, I'm going to be quitting teaching this on one more video. I'm doing one more video, and I will no longer support teaching Walter Russell's work. And because of the deeper level that I've looked into his Masonic connections, and what I'm really opposed to is his New World Order, New Age philosophy. I think that really ruins his science. It just works against his science message to believe in all these New World Order, ideas. You know what I mean? He was kind of into New Age Christianity or whatever, But anyways, he to put this in context, he wrote his first book in 1926 called The Universal One. So I was studying all of his books for about a decade, and then I finally, I had read the Kybalion maybe 20 years ago, but I read the Kybalion again. Have you ever read the Kybalion? Yeah,
I read pieces of it. When we had a pre-talk, I thought you meant the Kabbalah, but the
Kybalion, okay.
No, the Kybalion, I of course, and I know a lot about that work of, or I can call it alchemy or hermetology or whatever. But I know a little bit about it. But please continue, Robert.
The first half of the book is basically supposedly about the Hermetic principles, the teachings, the 7 teachings of the Hermetic principles, which are basically identical to Walter Russell's work. This was written in 1908. So here it is 18 years before Walter Russell wrote his first book. And so what I'm saying is, since I've reread this, I'm realizing the core elements for everything that Russell's teaching is from the same source. I'm saying that these 3 initiates here must have been Freemasons that were allowed to release this somehow, or this amount of knowledge. I mean, I don't think it's by any means, it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, of what they know about. So they released this. Unfortunately, it was framed in, it was more or less couched in the language of that time, the belief system of ether, the belief system of nuclear atoms and things like that. So the last half of the book is kind of contaminated with modern, dumbed down cosmogony, you know what I mean? But the first half is the pure teachings of Hermes, supposedly. So I have to wonder, I mean, I've got to believe that Walter Russell read this, you know what I mean? Because he had 18 years between then and there. He was obviously into this stuff. So I don't accept on his word that he had this 39-day illumination. I can't possibly go there. So it's that and many other claims like this that we'll discuss through this, which is actually leading me away from this. I think the core principles are correct. I think the 7 Hermetic principles are totally right on. What Walter Russell did is he added the cubic wave field, the inert gases, and the spiral periodical table to that pretty much. Otherwise, they're identical. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have pictures of them later on. But yeah, if you want to, we'll go on to that. Maybe we can also have a talk about his second wife, who was named later Lau Russell.
Right. Yeah, that's more of the same stuff. You see, she named herself Lao because she believed that she was the reincarnation of Lao Tse. So you see, I can't accept that either. And Russell believed he was the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci. So they've got some good science, but then they add this strange stuff that requires faith in them. And I'm not going down. That's a cult, you know. If you accept somebody's word like that, then you're becoming part of a cult. And I've never wanted to be part of. I never wanted to have anything to do with the USB because I got a hold of Michael Hudak maybe 6-7 years ago and talked to him about it. He says, I don't know anything about the science. He's the president of the USB, University of Science and Philosophy. And I said, well, you know, I've got all this information to share with you. I see you've got like these 6 conical wave videos on your site, and you've got no explanation. So I took about 12 hours of going through each one and time coding everything and, you know, writing out descriptions for all the processes that were happening in there. I said, look, I got all this here I can share with you. And they weren't even remotely interested. And he said, look, I don't know anything about the science. It's all about love. You know, the whole thing's about love. And it's like, well, what's, you know, that's not what I'm into this for. I want to learn something, you know. I mean, you're saying nothing there. So anyways, what happened is they created they rented this place in Swannanoa there. It's an Italian marble palace that was brought over from Italy by some real wealthy dude, and it had gone into shambles. It was all in disarray, and they took over, cleaned it up, and that's where they launched their University of Science and Philosophy there. When Daisy passed on in 1987, that was shut down, and so they haven't existed as you know, a teaching university since 1987. All they've done is sell books. They've got a group of lawyers that runs the board on this, and they do basically nothing to promote the science. And mainly what they're doing is promoting the philosophy, which I'm opposed to, because, like I said, it's New Age, New World Order drivel. I mean, they believed in you know, Christ, they say, but then at the same time they talk about how there's no such thing as demons. You know what I mean? They say, oh, there's, you know, that's all superstition. Well, which Jesus are they talking about? I mean, the only Jesus we know about is from the Bible. That Jesus was casting out demons and talking to them directly. So they've got a whole different message, you know. So this is the New Age Jesus that they're creating, you know. It's part of this New Age cult. It's like, which one do you believe, one or the other, you know? I think you and I are on the same page because we both believe in astrotheology. I've studied the works of Gerald Massey, Alvin Boyd Kuhn, comparative mythology, tons of stuff on astrotheology. I believe all this stuff is plagiarized. I don't believe in a literal Jesus, a guy that came and died on a cross for your sins and all that. I believe that it's the same old solar hero, you know, story that we've all heard over and over. There's like 25 different ones throughout the Mediterranean, but Horus, Isis, Osiris being really the first, you know, that we can trace in history, and it's really the identical message. It's very, very similar. So I don't go with the literal stuff, and I don't adhere to any religions. I believe that, you know, your relationship with the Creator is personal. That's your own business. I don't want to teach any, you know, I don't want to lead anybody. I don't want anybody leading me. You know what I mean? I want to have my own relationship with the Creator. I don't need anybody else's philosophy. I have my own philosophy. And I have a good relationship with the Creator, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right here, Robert. It's all about building a house on rock and not on sand. And when you mix all kinds of faith things with science, then it becomes really muddy and everything starts to collapse. So that's not correct. I think that the true age of the year that Daisy went from this physical reality was 10 years later than you just mentioned, but it doesn't really matter. 1988.
What was that? 87 or 88?
88.
Oh, it's 88, right?
Yeah. Have you ever been to Swannanoa to visit the place yourself, to see it with your own eyes, or?
No, I'm not a pilgrim.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not a groupie. I'm not a follower. I said that in my very first podcast. I was like, look, you know, I love Walter Russell. I love, you know, a lot of his stuff, but I'm not a groupie. My life doesn't hang on his every word. There were some problems with his science, and there's some big problems with the philosophy. I cannot possibly. The thing that really the last wild card for me with this whole deal was I had to look into this stuff because I saw the negative effect it was having on my students. You know, this New Age crap where you're like, oh, you know, the Illuminati, don't hate on them. You know, we have to love them too. It's like, hold on, these people are criminals. They need to be put in prison so we can be protected from them. You know, it's like, I just want justice. You know. And yet they're all upset because, oh, I'm a hater because I I dislike the Illuminati and this New World Order agenda. Well, that's you know, just it's working against all of us, and nobody wants to make a stand. You know what I mean? And I have to. I can't possibly go along with this stuff. The last straw for me was in Atomic Suicide. He had made a claim in the first part of the book. He said that Mary Baker Eddy was the greatest illuminate since Jesus Christ. Have you ever heard of her?
Yeah, she's also a Christ fanatic woman, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she created Christian Science.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I didn't know who she was. I have to be very honest with anybody that's listening that it was never my intention to be involved in this philosophy, and I just avoided it. I didn't look into it. I just remained focused on the science. So when I actually dug into this and found out who Mary Baker Eddy was, I looked at her life story. It's a disaster. She ground her way through 4 husbands. She was sick her whole life. She created this Christian Science cult, which allows the children and the sick people to die, because if they don't have enough faith, then they deserve to die. It's like they can't go see a doctor. You can't get medical help or herbal help or whatever. It's got to be on faith, or and that's just, it's insane. You know what I mean? So I can't possibly believe that Mary Baker Eddy is the greatest illuminate. And that was the last straw for me. I was like sickened by it, to be honest with you. And so I had to look deeper and deeper into this stuff. And what I found out was, I was getting messages from people talking about, well, how do you think that Walter Russell got those big architectural contracts in New York City? He had to be working with the Masons. They own New York City. You're not going to get a multi-million-dollar apartment building if you're not with them. You know what I mean? So there, I started getting some input from subscribers, and I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I look deeper into their connections. He's lecturing at IBM. He's there with Watson and stuff, Ford. I mean, he's running with all these, massive Illuminati figures, Carnegie, all the top level people, presidents, Roosevelt and stuff, kings and queens of Europe, all Illuminati. And so, when I was looking at this in the beginning, I was taking a kind of naive tact on it. Like, well, he had a 4th grade education. Maybe he didn't realize he was, running with these people that are all these big monsters, really. And, after looking at this for a long time, I've come to believe that he actually knew he was running with these Freemasons. He actually knew he was actually part of the whole deal. I can only conclude that from all the latest research I've done.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, but maybe we should try to see if we can keep the baby and throw away the bathwater, because I think
Sure.
there are some interesting things in his theories, and maybe we can comment on that. For instance, these pictures here, I hope you can see them as well. They look marvelous, and they are fully in line with the picture of nature that we just saw. So, how do you explain both torides going into each other?
How the torides going into each other?
Yeah, or what you just give any comments on this for the listener, for the viewers?
Okay. Oh yeah, sure. Well, the first thing I would say is Walter Russell was a brilliant artist, and that's why he was able to capture a lot of these, produce a lot of these ideas from his own drawing. And so what you're seeing here are electrical spirals that create a hurricane here on the right. He gives you a description on the left showing you mechanically in these, hand-drawn, images of how there are these twin opposing vortices. He shows you one below the Earth and one above the Earth, right? You see on the left? And when they meet, it says the crash, when the tips of the cones are at the, underneath the surface and at the surface at the same time. That's when you have the strongest vortex, and that's when you've got a hurricane or a tornado that just destroys everything in its path. So
yeah, that
he did a really good job.
Yeah, exactly. That moment of touchdown, but you've seen it probably yourself live. That's the great moment when the shit hits the fan, I would say, but that's not correct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so there's an electrical vortex coming from above and also one from down, and they are spinning in different directions, and then they meet, and then a magical touch is happening. Right,
but the directions are the same direction. They just appears to be different directions.
I know, but when you reverse your viewing, but anyway, if you look along the line of the movement, then it looks like clockwise and clockwise.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you go from the side, you see them spinning in the same direction.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and a key element in the work of Russell is the two sexes, the male and the female, and they unite, and actually the universe is all about those two sexes got separated and they want to unite again.
Yes, exactly. And so from the elements on up, what we have is two types of waveforms. One would be spinning. You see, in order to mate, in order to create something, they have to be spinning in the same direction. So, you know, this is, once again, here we are with the counterclockwise and the clockwise. It's the same exact motions going on here. They're both spinning in the same direction, and they meet and they interchange, and they each becomes the other through the fulcrum of stillness, which is controlling them. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, the entire universe, according to Russell, is based upon this. The elements, you know, there's 9 octaves of elements. Each octave is doing this. You have a male and a female that are spinning in the same direction, and then they mate. If you have a male and they spin, and they're trying to come together, they can't mate because they're opposites. They're like mirrored opposites of each other. They can't, and that's what we call repulsion. If they can mate, that's what we call attraction. But there's no such thing as an attractive force or a repulsive force in this science, because it's all determined upon mating or not mating. If they don't mate, they're repulsing. If they do mate, it's called attraction.
Yeah, I fully agree. I was just thinking maybe people would have a different idea about heterosexuality and homosexuality, that they might get offended by what you just said, but we'll just continue.
Well, it's just nature's based upon this. I mean, you know, the galaxies all the way down to the elements, it's all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is not meant to be taken, you know, whether I'm talking about homosexuals or lesbians. I mean, that's those people's own business. I'm going to sit here and judge everybody. You know, I'm just saying this is the way nature works according to Russell. These are all waveforms. They either can mate or they don't mate. And this created these illusions, which we call attraction and repulsion, which are not forces in themselves. They're just the fact that they're either mating or they're not mating. There's only one force. It's electrical. You see, in Russell's work, there's no such thing as magnetism. Everything that we call magnetism is due to electricity. If you take a piece of iron and you electrify it, you have a so-called magnet, but you used electricity to create a magnet. So it doesn't make any sense that it's magnetism. Makes a lot more sense. It's electricism. That now you've ordered the structure of these elements in the iron so that the vortices are all spinning in the same directions, and it gives you the illusion of something. You know, if you take a north-south magnet and you put a north to a south, they will mate, right? That's what we call attraction. But it's also avoidance too, because if you take those two magnets and you get them together there, that's no longer that's the center of a new magnet, which is the two combined magnets, and what was once a north and a south are both fleeing from each other to the furthest parts, and now they're at the ends of the two magnets that are stuck together. So you have north and south still, and in the middle you have a neutral center. You have what's called the block wall. You know what I mean? The plane of stillness.
Yeah, I know exactly. I can even demonstrate it. I'm not sure if people can see it. I have your two magnets. If I want to put them,
yeah,
it's difficult to put them here. But the moment then they click.
Yeah.
And now what you see, this is now the north and the south or whatever, but they're different poles now. And in the middle, you get the 0 point. And if you actually put for instance, a metal plate here, then you see there's no magnetic effect here at all, only at the sides. So, but anyway,
exactly. So that brings in the avoidance principle, you know. So there's avoidance there. It's not attraction; it's mating. And when they mate, it creates avoidance. So it changes the whole configuration of the two magnets, so that you now have a new north and south. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly amazing. And now we talk about charging and discharging. That's also I think a key concept in the work of Russell.
Yeah, exactly. We were just talking earlier about the galaxies and how, you know, the black, you don't see the invisible vortices that are going through the poles. Those would be the one up top and the one below. And then at the equator, you see they're unwinding, they're discharging through the equator. So that's what's happening as you look at a galaxy. You have these big vortex arms that are spinning out of the galactic core that are discharging everything that's being imploded through the poles. You see, in Russell's work, there's 17 gases that exist in space, which are completely unknown to academic cosmogony, because we don't have the kind of, first of all, our senses can't perceive them. Second of all, we don't have equipment that could perceive them either. Because if you look at the, everything's based on the inert gases in his work. The inert gas rings that build a galaxy are massive compared to the ones that are in uranium, for example. So if we're just a little planet in a huge galaxy, right, how could we possibly perceive one crest of a wave that's created by the galactic core that surrounds the entire galaxy? It's impossible. We're too small. We would have to be larger than the galaxy in order to perceive that crest of a wave. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. And it's also a little bit silly that you determine everything on the basis of what you find on one planet and what falls upon this planet as well, and maybe what you find on neighboring planets. But that's it. So and then assume that the enormous universe is the same everywhere. I think that's a little bit limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the right word, but you got the meaning. So here we see Mr. Russell standing in front of his chalkboard, I think, and he made 2 drawings, or actually 3, and the anode and the cathode, and the positive and the negative. What can you share about this, Robert?
Well, he did change that later. He removed negative from all of his work, because, if you say male is positive and female is negative, it's just like these homosexuals and lesbians. You're going to get people upset, A lot of women are going to get upset. In fact, the story goes that Daisy, or otherwise named Lau, was the one that brought this to Walter's attention. It's like, you can't say that women are negative, And also, they're both charging towards the center. Now, this is a point that's confused a lot of people. You see lots of diagrams on the internet of, electricity imploding through the North Pole and then unwinding through the South. And this is incorrect. That's not what Walter Russell was saying at all. He's saying that from the South Pole and the North Pole, they're both charging towards the center. So they're both positive. You can't say one's negative and one's positive. So in that diagram you were just showing, what you're looking at there are the inert gas rings. In the positive condition there, you're seeing all of it would be called the anode. That you're seeing all of the inert gas rings of the male and the female together. In the one in the middle, you're looking at a cathode, which is the only real black hole there is. It has no depth. That's a 2-dimensional hole in a 2D surface. Because the inert gas rings, everything starts in Russell's work as an image, as a 2D image, which is projected through cubes of space to create 3-dimensional objects. You see, in Russell's work, he calls this whole thing the cosmic light, the 3D cosmic light cinema. He's saying that there are these ideas that exist in the stillness of eternity, which is dimensionless, that are projected, created first in the form of a 2D image, which is then projected towards a center to create a 3D shape. So everything in the universe is created through that process, according to Russell.
Yeah, that's also the way I view it. This is my explanation of holy science. So that makes a lot of sense. Maybe we can see that projection here, because you see, it's going inward. I don't think I have the picture where they twist a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can that one's fine. Those cones give you a little bit of an idea of the twisting. The truth, they're idealized images, of course. They're geometric. They're perfect geometric images. And what Russell is stating here is that these cubes and these figures are seen here are of the magnetic still light universe, which he calls the dimensionless universe, where the creator exists. It has no temperature. It's got no motion, no curvature. It's the eternal, never-changing condition, which is the fulcrum from which all electrical motion derives its being. because everything starts as mind idea from the universal mind. The creator is creating all of this from universal mind. So it comes from a dimensionlessness to a dimension cubic. You see the cube there? That cube would control a sphere. Inside of that, there would be a little sphere where you see the cube and the sphere are trying to become each other. They're going back and forth. There's a rhythmic balance interchange between the cube and the sphere. The cube represents that magnetic universe of cold, still, zero curvature, zero heat, zero motion. Yet in the center of it is the exact opposite, which is a spherical body under enormous amount of pressure and heat and rotation. All those things, all the dynamic processes are happening in the center of it, and they're completely controlled by the magnetic universe of mind, of the creator's, intelligence, the creativeness that's creating this whole universe. So this is the thing that really attracted me to Walter Russell's work more than anything, because it explains how there is a creator. The creator is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. You see, this is the thing that really bothers me about academics. They get really upset when you start talking about the creator, God, whatever you want to call it, because they're very dogmatic, and they're looking at it through religious eyes. We're not talking about the man-made anthropomorphic gods of religions that have human qualities and a beard, and they sit on a throne and all these other crazy things. I mean, the creator is sexless and formless, first of all. So you can't imagine, and it's not a he either. I mean, you're constant from all these patriarchal religions where, oh, it's this dude in the sky. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about some guy in the sky. We're talking about sexless, formless, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent consciousness. That's what it is. It's consciousness that's creating this. We are all created from that consciousness.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely true. Well spoken. Well spoken.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we're running out of time because we also have to do Victor Schauberger, and so this is then the scheme that Walter Russell came up with, and he's saying that before hydrogen there are, I think, 24, or I'm not sure. You said 18.
17 space gases.
17 before. Okay.
Yeah, that we can't perceive. Yeah, this was his first attempt, I think, at this. Well, he's got a 9 octave. Originally, he had 10 octaves. You can see down in the bottom left-hand corner, it was 1926 when he did this. I colorized this chart. I don't know, did I send you this?
Oh, I found it somewhere on the internet. But
well, I colorized this about 5 years ago to make it easier for people to try to understand. But as you can see, the inert gases exist on the vertical line there. And what he's saying is that everything begins as inert gas from each octave. And according to the different pressure conditions of the male uniting with the female, or the female uniting with the male, one being dominant over the other, it creates all these various either ring systems, would be the ones on the sides of the yellow spheres. At the amplitude of the wave on each octave, you see there's a little yellow sphere. It says cobalt, rhodium, there's silicon, carbon. Those are the perfect spherical systems within each octave. The rest of them are ring systems that have either 1, 2, or 3 rings, according to where they are in the octave. There's 7 tones per octave. The wave field amplitude is a mix of 2 tones, so you create a perfect spherical system. This is all based on the inert gases, the belief that the inert gases will not mix with anything. And this is something I have to warn people about as well. This has been the real downfall of Walter Russell's work. Was he claimed on several occasions that volumes needed to be written about the inert gases. Then he never wrote them. So there's just not enough information to really understand this the way he claims he understood it. And if things like xenon hexafluoride exists, if there's something that's really called radioactive helium, if niton is really radioactive, then there's some serious problems with this entire thing, because it's all based upon the inert gases. Now, I don't know how to confirm or not confirm these things. I mean, these are claims made by chemists that they create these things or whatever they're doing. So I have no way of confirming or not confirming it. So it's the biggest frustration I had in this entire science was verifying this inert gas model, because everything's based upon it. It's the foundation. So, I mean, that's, if anybody wants to do some work on this, the most work needs to be done on the inert gases. But I don't know if you've seen, I've produced a critical correction series recently, the last few months. I've gone through and tried to qualify various things that are very, very difficult for students that just jump into Russell's stuff and start reading it. It's very confusing because he made a lot of amendments and revisions. And it took me 10 years of going through it, reading these books, a half a dozen to a dozen times each, and making notes and going back and forth and going, oh, hold on, this doesn't agree with this earlier book. And I had to go through and, do all the revisions and amendments myself. This is something that he never did. That is another failure I see. I mean, his books are essentially worthless because of that. Because most people, 99% of the people out there, are not going to put the kind of time into it like I did to find these things out. And nobody's ever laid out all the revisions and the amendments. So I'm trying to qualify my work as I leave and let everybody know my intention has never been to deceive anybody with this. It's only been to help in my personal quest. I came into this through Victor Schauberger. I came on to Walter Russell's work many years later, and I thought it was a beautiful and elegant explanation of what Victor Schauberger was doing. I mean, Schauberger is really my passion. He's the guy that actually created the technologies that would free humanity. Walter Russell didn't do that. So these are the kind of qualifications I'm making as I leave teaching this material. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, then we should definitely move on to Mr. Schauberger.
Excellent.
Maybe one last word about, you left this university, you were there. I think you did a lot of work, and I thought that the website is on the secretoflight.com is still online. So I saw it mostly your work, but maybe it was Matt as well. But what do you want to say about this group of people, the USP?
Oh, no, I was never involved with them ever. And it was never my intention to be involved with them. I've never had anything to do with any of these people other than a phone call to Michael Hudak when I found out he didn't understand the science. So I've never had anything to do with them, nor did I ever want to have anything to do with them, because they were not promoting the science, and that's what I cared about. I could care less about the philosophy. So this is Matt Presti's involved with this. He's trying to become president of this group, I guess. And it was never my intention to have anything to do with them. And I'm not remotely interested in resurrecting a cult. And that's the way I perceive the USP now, as a kind of a new age Christian ecumenical kind of cult, So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, crystal clear, loud and clear. Then we move on to Mr. Victor Schauberger, and I will do some talking here. There are many books written about this legendary man and what he did. I think Olaf Alexanderson was the first one, but many others as well. This is even a book in Dutch of a guy who was fascinated by the whole idea of implosion. So there's much work here to be done. Actually, his father wanted him to become a scientist and send him to the university, because for many generations they were all foresters. But Victor was not really happy at the university. I thought it was not really making sense at all. So good for him. He left really soon and became a forester as well. And when he was really young, he had already a lot of hectares under his management, so to say. I had to take care of that. So 21,000. That's really a huge area. And his main ideas about university science, and I think that's also what Mr. Russell said, but also Nikola Tesla, it's actually unnatural, it's contrived, it's dead, there is no soul in it at all, there's no spirit in it either, it's spiritless or out of spirit, no spirit at all. And the whole idea of God is lacking, or the creator. You can use different words like Robert just said before, but there has to be something that is creating all this magnificent we see everywhere. So the picture we saw at the beginning, they are beautiful. So how were they created? By accident? I don't think so. There must be a creator.
Absolutely.
And one night he was sitting in the forest, and there was I think it was 3 o'clock in the night or something. And this was a lake. There was no river or coming in or out or any water at all. So it was on its own. And then suddenly the trunks that were floating in the in that lake, they were starting to move, and it created a kind of vortex, or a real vortex. And eventually the trunks got sunk into the bottom, and they never reappeared. And after a while, a huge fountain exploded from the water up. And he was so fascinated by that. He saw that nature was capable of reinventing itself, or actually to vitalize itself, even if there's nothing coming in or out, or actually nothing visible coming in or out. And that was when he got the idea of the vortex, and that became his main idea. What you see here on top is German for first understand nature. Kapier means to understand, and then copy it. And what he saw, what was done in the people around him, they were not understanding nature at all, and they were creating all kinds of ludicrous technology. And he told his son at a certain moment, just do the very opposite of what everybody else is doing, and then you are probably right. So that was his cynical way of telling that people are doing crazy stuff. And what you said before, Robert, is also what he said. He said, nature was my teacher. That's what you see here in German. Die Natur war mein Lehrer. So he was saying, I learned everything from nature by observing nature really well. That's how you learn to understand the principles of nature, and not by writing down formulas on a book, or mathematical or any other approach. So he was extremely fascinated by this vortex movement, this inward going three-dimensional spiral. And that's what we see everywhere in nature. And in the beginning of this episode, I show one in water, but you can also make it permanent. Then you bring water up and down in the spirals like this. And what it's actually doing, it's vitalizing the water. It's bringing the liveliness back into water. When we drink tap water, it's mostly dead. The liveliness of tap water is very low. So you have to bring it, make it more lively in order to make it good for you. Because when you drink something that is dead, then you become more dead. And when you drink something that is really alive, you become more alive. Germans have a beautiful saying. They say, man isst was man isst. And that means in English, you become what you eat. So you become like the things you eat, either more dead or more alive. And to me, these are really fascinating pictures. I can look at them for very long. And I'm quite sure that's true for you too, Robert.
Absolutely. I mean, it's mystical. The vortex is, I had an experience when I was 12 years old that I share real quick. I went up, my mom had taken me and my brother and sister up to Bible camp, Church of Christ Bible camp up in the mountains, not far from where I'm at right now, a couple hours away. And as we were coming back from it, we'd stopped in the Central Valley to take a pee, and on the side of I-5 there coming home. And the sun was setting at the time, and the sun was like, it was really polluted back in those days. This is like the late 60s, and there was like tons of photochemical smog. And so the sunlight, the sunset was gorgeous. It was purple and orange and red and all these wild colors because of the hydrocarbons, they were just filling the air in those days. And I looked down, and right there next to these rice fields, there was a gutter, a channel, and a pump was sucking water out to water the rice fields. And there was a huge vortex in this brown, muddy, chocolatey water. And I was like, I was looking at the sun, and I'm looking at this vortex, and I'm 12 years old, and I just got done with this mind control garbage, which I never went to any of the classes. I went and hid in the forest all day. I didn't go to the classes for the Bible study thing, but I went out and studied nature for that week. I was going there, playing with the frogs in the creeks with all the different animals and stuff. And so that moment, though, I'll never forget that, because it was just one of those magical moments where here you got the sun and this vortex, and I knew, that there was something very special about that. And it took, years and years and years, of course, for this to materialize, but you get these kind of like these mileposts in your life, these synchronistic little things that happen to you that make you realize you are on the right course. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah. It's like somebody is tapping you on the shoulder and say, this is the right way to go on.
Or hitting you on the head with a sledgehammer, more like.
It's the other way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But nature has a built-in feedback mechanism, and probably we've created it ourselves, but it's really telling us if we are on track or not. So, great story, Robert. Nature is also becoming your teacher and mine as well. But unfortunately, I'm not a forester, or I don't have much nature around like you have. So I envy envy you and Victor, but there are a lot of beautiful pictures, so I take my share from there. Yeah, this is a beautiful tornado. We've talked about it before, but it's the same principle. It's yeah, like we said before, it's two systems coming together and creating this this dynamic, yeah, kind of balanced system. What Russell said was nature, and especially water, has to find its own way, and that own way is like this. It's going with curves, and if you allow water to take its own route, then it will always find this way. Even if you have a very flat surface and there's a little skip, and then the water comes down, it never goes down in a straight line. It always finds a little, yeah, movement like this, going left and right. And that's exactly how the snake or the serpent is moving. So water is moving like the serpent, or the other way around. The movement of the serpent is in the water as well. And yeah, what Russell said, and I think he's really right about that, water is not just a bunch of H2Os mixed together. They are very well organized together, and actually they are threads of structure of threads, and each thread is also making a layer, or a combination of threads makes a layer. So water is actually a layered system, and each layer has its own density, its own electric potential. And that's why water is capable to do all those magnificent things, actually storing information as well, because it has all those beautiful qualities. So that's what you see here, and the right was a drawing made by Victor Schauberger. You see huge vortices lines going in, but each line is also a kind of vortex as well, or a small helix. So it's actually a layered system. If you want to add, Robert, please jump in.
Yeah, and different temperature gradients as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't put it there. What Russell said was, sorry, what Victor Schauberger said was, when it has 4 degrees of Celsius, I'm not sure exactly what the Fahrenheit equivalent of that is, but then it is it's most liveliness.
Yeah, 38 degrees is what he called the anomaly point of water, when it was actually at its most dense. You would actually think that 32 degrees or 33 would be the most dense, but actually it starts expanding. Ice starts to expand, right, as it grows. So it's actually at its most dense at 38 degrees. And he said that that was a sign of a healthy alpine stream, is it should be 38 degrees. But it has to be covered with trees. You can't have sunlight coming in and warming up that water. But in a healthy, protected watershed, hopefully with old growth, trees, the few that are left, you would have a perfect 38 degrees in a healthy stream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when I did not know it, I looked differently at water, but now I have all this understanding. When I see this water, I actually can see those bundles of water threads, so to say, and that's why they are organized, because you don't see it's like a sheet coming down. No, they're all tiny threads spiraling around each other coming down. So, and sometimes you see big ones and some smaller ones. But that makes it really fascinating to look at it.
Right, and for us it looks chaotic, but the truth of the matter is there's an extremely high level of order there that's beyond our senses.
Exactly, and that's the secret of water. It's so organized, it's beautiful. And what Victor Schauberger found, that was a shape in nature that is perfectly enhancing that liveliness vortex of water. And that's what we see at the head of the Kundu antelope. And he was fascinated by that shape because it's actually a kind of double spiral. It's of course a spiral, but it's also twisting inside. So it's enhancing that spiraling movement with another factor. And what you see here at the bottom, that's actually a drawing by Victor himself. So he was fascinated by the shape, and he tried to create it himself. And what you see here is when you look inside the tube, then you can see, of course, the big spiral, but you can also imagine there's another spiral going inside as well, so you get a double one. If you want to add, Robert, please do so.
Yeah, he actually tried to make a machine based upon that, right? You seen that?
Yeah, the fucking machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but please continue. Please explain. I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah. Too bad we don't have a diagram. It was kind of interesting. There was like a dozen of those, right? They were on a wheel, and so what he was doing is centrifugating, spinning that, and then having the vortex go outwards. You remember that machine?
Yeah, actually, I have pictures of machines later on, so maybe we can just.
Oh, good. Yeah.
The right one. So what he saw in water, for instance, is that what we saw beautifully before. This is what I call a counterclockwise spin, a yin spin, but don't interrupt me, please, Robert. And then it goes a kind of 0 point in the middle, and then it starts to spin in a yang fashion or a clockwise fashion. And that's what nature is doing. It's reversing the direction, and this is a kind of 0 point or fulcrum or like you want to any name you want to use for that. Null point is also used, and especially fish like to be in this magnificent point because it's like the eye of the hurricane. There is stillness there before it starts to twist outside again.
Right, and you could also look at that as being the ecliptic of the galaxy as well, that energy cannon.
Exactly. But then there's no water coming in, so we can't see what's coming in. We can only see what's coming out. And in this case, we cannot see what's going out. We can only see what's coming in. And
right. All you would see is spiraling stars.
Yeah.
In the galaxy.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what the errors are here. These can be the spiraling stars or the arms of the galaxy. So he tried to make that as well by twisting a tube like this in order to get that same movement. And here you see some drawings made by him because he tried to create the same kind of movement, not in a straight line, but by bending it and also by twisting it like this so that you get a perfect double longitudinal vortex. That was his goal. And he could use that very much later on. I'll explain that. And what his explanation of this is actually said that the positive charge, they move out, the positive charge oxygens, while the negative charge Cs, or you call carbons, they are moving inside. So you get a potential difference between the outside and the inside. And I will not have time to explain why he called this positive and the carbons negative. But he saw that by creating this kind of vortex movement in the water, you get a difference in potential between the core or the axis and the surface at the outside. And that electric potential is actually a definition of life. So he created, he enforced the life force in water.
Right, and of course the temperature difference, the coldest water would be in the center.
Yes, that's true, yeah, and the hottest water will be at the outside. So you get all those layers too. And so, yeah, the essence is actually everything is electric. When we look at life in our own body, yeah, we see all kinds of nerve cells firing to each other. That's electric. And when we look at the universe, it's the very same. So we just have to understand that life is electric and get rid of all this nonsense universities made up in order to understand the true dynamics in the whole of the universe. And yeah, when you look at trouts, for instance, in water, they tend to look to seem be extremely still or not moving at all, while the water around them is flowing really fastly. So, so what is the secret? Well, the secret is that each of these fish, they want to be in the center of a spiral. So they are in the core, and the water around them is spiraling. But we only see the water at the surface going from left to right, thinking that the fish must be swimming really hard, though we don't see any movement at all. So we don't get it. We don't see the hidden vortex movement inside, and we don't see the eye of the hurricane, so to say.
Right, and I'd just like to add to that, too, that the gills are part of that. The gills act as a fulcrum where the trout extracts the oxygen, changing the consistency of the water, and the vortices roll down its side, so it's also creating its own vortices, even in just fast running water where there's not a vortex there. Okay,
great. Thank you for adding that, Robert. So then vortex machines, I have later on a picture of that. So the essence, what Schauberger was telling us, is the vortex motion is vitalizing water. And then water is alive, otherwise it's close to being dead. and it's very toxic to drink that water. While drinking a live water that is live, full of life force, is really healthy, of course. And living water has a much higher surface tension. And that idea he used later on. I'll explain that if we have time. Yeah, we have time. And I think this is a marvelous quote from him. He said, "The true foundation of all culture is the knowledge and understanding of water." And when we apply that quotation on our society, then I don't think we have really a high quality of culture at the moment. It's really a low one.
No, we failed miserably.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you look at the Peruvians or the Minoans or the Egyptians, you see they all used vortex, you know.
Exactly. So it's time that we start to understand this principle here.
I'd just like to add, sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. But I'm looking at the time, that's all. But continue.
Okay, I just want to interject something real quick about this. People, there's all these really expensive vortex water machines out there and all that stuff. You don't need that. You go on eBay and get a Cellucor vortex mug. They little battery operated things. They cost like $18. Get that and start imploding your water. I do it daily. I put colloidal minerals in there. I implode it. I make sure the colloidal minerals are 38 degrees and my cold water coming out of the fridge is 38 degrees. Implode that for 3 or 4 minutes. That you're good to go. That's all you need. It's replicating the motions of a stream. That's what you want. You're breathing in the gases. The water becomes saturated with the carbon dioxide. You create carbonic acid. You know, this is all in line with what with what Victor Schauberger is saying. You don't need to go spend a fortune on this. Just go buy one of these $18 mugs. Seriously, that's all you need.
Great. Yeah, that's a great tip. So viewers, you have already your money back. Oh, you didn't pay any money. Okay, let's continue. This is how the environment was. I'm not sure how beautiful it is around your house, Robert, but I don't think it's too bad to live here. This is where Victor Schauberger was seeing the dynamics of water every day again in Austria.
Yeah, I live right next to the Feather River, so it's very much like this.
Whoa, so great. Then this guy, short story here in between, this guy had a really big financial problem, and he created a competition in order to save a lot of money. He said, who can invent a method to bring the trunks from up in the mountains to the valleys? And Russell heard about this competition and he participated, but the university trained committee that was taking it in, they said that the ideas of Schauberger, they can never be put into practice because it's nonsense. So it was dismissed. But the guy, this Adolf guy, is actually a prince, a so-called prince. He dismissed all the others, so nobody won the competition. And then later, Schauberger met this Adolf somewhere, and he was able to convince him that his idea was actually really worthwhile trying. And that's what happened. And on the basis of the knowledge of Victor Schauberger, there was a 50 kilometers or 31 miles long trek created like this. It's a semicircle at the bottom going round, and it was able to carry really heavy trunks that would normally sunk to the bottom, but because of the tricks used by Victor, it was able to bring them really rapidly down. And the tricks are, of course, the stippling motion, so it has to be a snake-like movement, and the temperature. He added fresh water from the mountain, from sources from the mountains, to the stream all the time, so that the temperature would stay good, and he was making sure that the vortices in the water stayed good as well. And that's why they have a much more higher pressure, upward pressure, surface pressure. And but the downside of this is, though he was so extremely successful in doing this, that his beloved mountains and the trees, they were cut down very rapidly. So he was actually punished for creating this invention. But the good thing is he became world famous by inventing this spiraling motion, and that's why he was able to create much more. Another idea of him was the X shape, and he said this is this beautiful solution of nature. If you have a furnace like this and you burn gases or whatever, they will burn completely. So you hardly need any exit. Everything stays inside until it's completely put into heat. and nothing is left over. So the dynamics inside the eggs are magnificent. It's a beautiful natural shape. And that's a shape he used to create a vortex as well inside. And this is now used in many many procedures in the food industry, for instance, because it reduces the grow rate of fungi. So it's hardly any fungi anymore. And also people use the same kind of device on top of the water outlet to have hydrotherapy, because it's somehow stimulating the skin as well. So this beautiful egg shape is creating a vortex inside, and it's increasing the liveliness. And this is what we find in the front of the kind of museum that is now in Austria for him. We find the same egg shape here again, and also here, and the water is going up, making a beautiful vortex going down and then up again. This is a perfect vitalizer of different ideas combined into one. And what he said to his son, who was actually went to the university to study physics, but his son was never able to bridge the ideas of university physics and of his father, which was a bit sad, but I understand, of course, why, because there is no bridging possible. The foundation of university physics is utterly wrong. So you cannot bridge something to something which is not working. And he said, look at what the marble seed is doing. This shape, to slow down, is used to create speed, to accelerate. So we use the same shape, but we do the opposite of what nature is doing. Nature is using the shape to slow down. We use it to speed up. Makes no sense at all. He said we should look at the trout, for instance. They are able to swim even if there's no water. They create a kind of catapult movement through using the vortex, and that's why they're able to go against the flow. They want to go upstream because there is the condition ideal to lay the eggs. That's the 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Fahrenheit, or 4 degrees Celsius condition. So that's the perfect condition. That's why they want to go up, and they are the kind of vortex machine that is able to bring them there. So actually, it's a natural vortex creator, and the same is true for the bumblebee. You can prove with formulas from physics that the bumblebee is not able to fly. Yeah, you can even get a degree for that, because then you apply all the formulas really well. But you only one look at a bumblebee and you see those formulas actually are not really telling you the truth about nature, because the bumblebee is able to fly. So he's creating a vortex too, or she. And that's why he's able to lift and use this mass body compared to the wings. Jump in there anytime you want to, Robert.
No, that's beautiful. I had that same realization about 15 years ago. I hear things like that, like the bumblebee is not supposed to fly, and it just makes me nauseous. I've heard all these crazy things. I grew up with it. My dad was an engineer, nuclear engineer, so I had all this stuff kind of force fed to me, and none of it made any sense as a kid. I rejected all of it. Yeah, because they have no idea of the vortex movement and how that can create an uplifting effect or a levitation effect. Exactly.
And Schauberger said we should make a kind of device that is not based on the push or the explosion, but instead on the suction or the pull. So we have to pull in the air, and that's creating a forward movement. And that's exactly the opposite of what we're doing now. All the engines we create are pushing instead of pulling.
Yeah, and the hydro dams as well. It's all forced. And then you have cavitation, which destroys the blades. And imagine if we had implosion machines on the dams instead that suck the water out.
Yeah, I think
what I mean. Makes a whole lot more sense.
Exactly, it's better for nature. I think we have a lot more random and what do you call it? We have a lot more output as well. So that's great. This is what I said before. This is actually a smooth surface, but still water is going like this down. It's not going in a straight line because it wants to move. And here you see a kind of sucking. This is also a drawing from Victor Schauberger. You see the spiraling movements going in, and there are not one, but in this case 5 spiraling lines next to each other. And on the basis of that, he created the idea of a kind of turbine, a suction turbine. and it has actually been created as well. He made the sketches for it. He didn't build it himself, but there are many people who follow his ideas. They build this kind of machines, but they've not figured it out completely how to make it really work. And the same is true for this suction screw. Of course, it's working really well. It brings in all the water really fast. So the ideas are working, but I think some essential insights are lacking. For instance, the water barrier that he made for the trunks, nobody was ever able to recreate that, to make it just as good as he did. So the secret ingredient is still with the master, and the master is no longer among us. And then the Nazis discovered that he was really smart guy, and eventually they forced him to work on this project, which was creating levitation machines, or we can call them flying saucers or whatever. And it's based on these two effects. At least that's the university term for it. But he just simply called it implosion. And here you see a sketch of it. Yeah, the time is, we don't have much more time to explain everything in detail. But the truth is, they were actually created, and there's a lot of footage on the internet on them. Video, as well as all kinds of drawings, how they were made. They had names. And yeah, we all know that with Operation Paperclip, all these insights went from Nazi Germany to mostly NASA, but other places as well. So, yeah, anything you want to add, Robert, please do.
Oh, I think you're right. I mean, that's, because we were enslaved to like the Dummkopf Einstein and his screwed up science, it's all BS. We were way behind the Germans. We stole everything from them. We didn't know how to build rockets. We didn't know how to make jet motors. We stole that stuff from the Germans, and we stole this technology as well. Billy Lyon's got a good book called Pentagon Aliens or something, or I think he changed the name of it, but it's all about the electric flying craft. These are based on electricity. They create massive amounts of electricity, and then they can use that to repulse against the so-called gravity, which is really electricity, and just changing the way that it interacts with the Earth's electricity, so they can go at enormous velocities. But this is purely electric.
Yeah, and it's 75 years ago, mind you.
Yeah.
75 years ago, we already started making these things, and I think by now they look much more advanced. So most of the UFO sightings people have, I think they are just made on this planet, and they have nothing to do with extraterrestrial beings inside. That's at least my understanding.
I agree as well. And, I think that, Schauberger really didn't realize the power of these things. You've heard the story about how he left the shop one day and he'd had the repulsing attached to a little bench that was, had 1/4-inch bolts into the cement, and somebody turned the thing off and it went and crashed into the ceiling. Yeah. They had no idea about the levitational effects of this thing.
No, those forces are huge, and without knowledge, without good understanding, it becomes extremely dangerous. But he knew what he was doing, and he was making sure that his secret didn't went into the wrong ways, into the wrong hands, I mean. So he gave them little by little, but not enough for them to fully understand it. But I think finally they got it still. And the same is true with Tesla. He didn't want to give them it, but I think finally they figured it out themselves as well. So that's of it. And the final thing I can add to this, he also, because he came back to Austria very disillusionized because he had beautiful ideas of this planet. He actually started the environmental movement to make life more in balance with nature. But he was completely misunderstood, and then the whole operation was hijacked by fanatic people without any knowledge at all. So that's what the situation we're in now. They have no clue, but they abandoned. They have. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore at all. But anyway, he came up with a what he said. We should use copper instead of iron, because copper is not affecting he called it the magnetic field in the Earth. And by using copper, we don't have much. We don't need pesticides anymore, any other strange stuff, because then we keep the nature as it is. So, and there are many people now who are working with copper, but the powers that be, they don't make much money with copper, so they keep this away, which is really a pity. But here you see in the middle a plow that he invented, also a beautiful spiral movement, both sides. And if you use this, it's much better for the soil, and your harvest will be much better. Your plants will grow faster, better, stronger, and everything will be much more in harmony with nature. If we start to understand how nature really works, that's the key.
Right, and also when the copper's going through the soil, little bits of it are left in the soil, which fertilize the soil. So
okay.
It's a win-win situation.
Beautiful, yeah, great. Yeah, so the time is nearly running out. After this, there's another show, Robert. Yeah, what Victor Schauberger said, water is a living organism, and that living organism deserves our respect. And I think he's absolutely right about that. We think as a commodity, but it's actually living, and we should treat it as if it's living, like we respect all that is all life forms.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he said water is like the blood of the earth. So it's very important for the stability or the ecosystems. Okay, yeah, I promote my book again. If you want to know more about my ideas about how everything works, it's available as consecutive ebooks. You can buy only one to see if you like it, and then you can buy them all. Next week, and then we have to stop. Next week, I have a special episode in Arabic. I don't speak Arabic myself, but I have a co-host, just like I had this episode with Robert, and he will do the talking. I will just show the pictures. And then the episode I already showed before on the true human history will then be done in Arabic. So if you tune in next week, don't get confused when you hear a language you don't understand, because that will be in Arabic. And the next show in English will be somewhere, I'm not sure, August or September, because I have a holiday break in between. Just go to pateo.nl and click on the agenda, and then you will see when the next episode will be, because I'm not sure right now at this moment. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you liked it, and I also want to really thank my co-host. You have not seen him because of the bandwidth. He chose to have only audio instead of video as well, because then it might have trouble with the connection. But Robert, I really want to thank you very much for everything you shared, and I think it was a really beautiful episode here.
Thank you, Johan. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, maybe you can see me sweat here. It's extremely hot. I'm not used to this kind of temperature. It's I'm doing a broadcast from the sauna, but anyway, I survived and I'm still alive. So thank you very much, Robert. Viewers, thank you very much for viewing this episode. If you like Pateo TV, then tell your friends about it, and yeah, hopefully more people will try to understand what people like Schauberger and people like Russell were really doing, and then make the distinction between baby and bathwater and what is working really good. Yeah, keep that, and everything else, like it's becoming religion or a faith system. Yeah, please put that aside, because that's not helping us. We need science that is based on rock and nothing based on soil, on drifting sand can help us create understanding of the universe. So that's for this episode. Thank you very much. And
if you really had to make a difference on a large scale with minimal resources, how would you go about it? Have you ever dared to dream of doing that which seems impossible? On a planet steeped with corruption and destruction, the question beckons, how do we change it? Media has a far-reaching impact on people and has been used to manipulate humanity into our current destructive patterns. In order to affect people into moving into constructive patterns of behavior, we need to construct a new paradigm of media. Conscious Consumer Network has been created with the explicit intention of giving the amazing truth-seeking, solutions-orientated, alternative media a place to fully realize their true potential with a cutting-edge, high-tech professional media platform. In turn, some of the greatest freedom-seeking hearts and souls of our time have realized the true potential of what has been created and have come together to provide their insight and inspiration on CCN. Conscious Consumer Network has become a unique, interactive information and educational network which provides a free-to-view, live-stream, ultra-high definition channel to the world and features 25 live shows a week and growing with the addition of multiple language broadcasts. CCN has features comparable with mainstream media, such as being able to pause and rewind broadcasts whilst being live streamed. Catch up on missed or previous broadcasts, now available from CCN High Definition downloads. You can now purchase a high definition download of your favorite CCN show from ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a monthly pledger. This can be done with a monthly pledge of €10, which will allow you unlimited access to CCN's high definition downloads, which hosts a back catalogue of over 250 shows which have been aired since the launch of CCN on the 1st of January 2015. In order to keep CCN free of corporate sponsorship and advertising, CCN has launched the Pledge 300 campaign. This is a realistic goal with the hopes of securing a minimum of 300 people who will each pledge €10 a month. With this number, we can continue to grow and operate and potentially expand into a second foreign language channel. Help keep alternative media in the hands of the people. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.